All right, so day 5, we're actually looking at tone, and I just noticed that the objective is wrong. So instead we're going to be readers are noticing how a writer's word choices create the tone of a writing. So that is actually a mistake. I will correct that later. But yesterday we looked at mood, right? And mood is like the emotions. You're trying to show or get your reader to feel a certain thing, right? And connect with the writing, right? And connect emotionally to what is happening in the writing. Tone is a little different. The author is still trying to get a message across to you, but it's in a different way. Yes, Micah?
Your date's wrong.
I know, I'll fix that later. Usually my trusty student who fixed my dates for me is not here today. So, well, Marcos does it too, but apparently he's not here today, and he's usually the one that's over there fixing the date for me. Okay, it is the 27th. Anyway, let's go on. Tone definition. So the definition of tone is an attitude of a writer toward a subject or an audience. Tone is generally conveyed through the choice of words or the viewpoint of a writer on a particular subject. So the tone that an author uses is going to tell you how they feel about something, about a particular topic. Maybe it's something that they're writing about. It can also be about a particular person or a particular group of people, the audience. So we're going to look at Firebird again, pages 26 through 28, and we're going to read through the text and see if we can find some tone in here. See if we can find an example of tone, what the author is trying to tell us, or show us how they feel about something. Spinning wishes for new little ones we can't yet imagine. Then they will look to you and wonder, lighter than air and as swift as sunlight turning over the day. The space between you and me is longer than forever, and I will show them that forever is not so far away. So what do you think the author's tone is? Thinking about that. So how do you think the author, Misty Copeland, feels about becoming an accomplished dancer? And what are some of the words that make you think that? Wesley?
Forever is not so far away.
There you go. That's the words. What does that tell us about what Misty Copeland thinks? So you're right. Forever is not so far away. What is she trying to say, Wesley?
He's trying to say, well, he's trying to encourage you to keep pushing and pushing until you reach your goal.
All right, encouragement maybe to the reader, saying that this is something that can be accomplished. Sure. What else? What else do you think the tone is trying to be conveyed here, based on what was just said? The space between you and me is longer than forever, and I will show them that forever is not so far away. So we just came over here, spinning wishes for new little ones we can't yet imagine. Then they will look to you in wonder, lighter than air and as swift as sunlight turning over the day. And then they go into that line that I just read. So what do you think the author's tone is here? The message they're trying to convey. Wesley's on the right track. So it's something about the distance, right, is not as far as you think. Ben? Huh? Light as day. That's her using descriptive words, right, to kind of get that imagination going. I wouldn't say it's necessarily her tone, though. So she's saying here that you can show that being an accomplished dancer is achievable, right? It's something that can be achieved. And not only that, but when you show that, you're going to be spinning wishes for new little ones we can't yet imagine. The next generation, right? The next group of dancers that are going to come next. So she's saying that this young dancer will someday, can become an accomplished dancer, just like the other one, and that she's going to be able to show the next generation that they can do it too. Okay? So the tone here that we're looking at is that, like Wesley said, forever is not so far away, showing that it's achievable, that it can be accomplished. We're looking at two words that describe the tone of the author in the passage. And it is direct and determined. Now obviously these are not words that were in the passage, but it's the words that come to mind when you think about the tone. So direct. The distance between a beginning dancer and an accomplished dancer is huge, right? Because she starts with that longer than forever. But determined, she knows she can achieve her dream, which is what Wesley was getting at. Forever is not so far away. So here we can see that one, the achievements between a beginner and a professional are very wide, right, very far away. But you can become a professional dancer. You don't have to be stuck as just a beginner forever. If you try hard enough, you can eventually achieve the dream too. Okay. Writers choose words very carefully when they write. When a writer uses specific words to express their feelings or attitude toward a subject, like dancing in this case, they create a tone. What word could you use to describe her tone? So, I used the words direct and determined. What do you think? What kind of words would you use to describe her tone? So direct and determined were two examples. But what do you think? What's a word that you could use to describe her tone, Leslie?
Encouraging and on track.
Okay, encouraging. I like that one, right? Kind of trying to let the beginner know that, hey, you can do this. You can accomplish your dream. What else? Anyone else have any other words that could be used to describe her tone? So we've got direct, we've got determined, we've got encouraging. Any others?
On task.
On task. Okay, maybe. Kind of going with the determined, right? Connecting with that a little bit. Sure. Any others? Amelia?
I'm going to sort of use like determined, or she feels like from the words she's setting, the words she is using to set the tone. I feel like our sort of tone, the tone is like, I'm going, I forgot.
It's okay. Alright, tone can sometimes be hard to catch. It's not quite as easy as mood, right? Because mood, you kind of feel whatever is going on, whether it be mysterious or worrying or happy or joyful, you know, all those sorts of things. Mood can be much easier for us to read, but tone is a bit more difficult. And so I'm not surprised by many of you sitting here kind of looking at me like I'm a crazy person. Daniel?
It's like, if your tone is loud, it normally means
Okay, but let's go back to our definition of tone real quick, just so we all understand what a tone is. You're talking about tone like your voice tone, right? And you're saying like, well, if I can judge your tone, I can tell if you're mad or happy or that sort of thing. Tone in text is an attitude of a writer toward a subject or an audience. Okay, so it is kind of like that attitude part that you're talking about, but it's toward a subject or an audience. Okay? In this case, when we're reading about Firebird, it's about a subject, right? Dancing. And the tone is generally conveyed through a choice of words or the viewpoint of a writer on a particular subject. So, in the subject, the tone was about dancing, and the writer's attitude is you can be an accomplished dancer too. You don't have to be stuck as a beginner. You can become a professional dancer as well. You're not stuck just at the beginning stages. And it's not like it's impossible for you to become a professional dancer. That's the tone that the writer is saying, right? If we go back and look at it again, and then after we look at this, we'll go to the share and we'll conclude the mini lesson. But let's read this again and think about that. What is the author trying to tell you? Because they have an opinion here, and they're showing it through their tone. They're trying to tell you something. So spinning wishes for new little ones we can't yet imagine. Then they will look to you in wonder, lighter than air and as swift as sunlight turning over the day. So you in wonder. That means the beginner dancer, not the professional dancer this time. And what is the beginner dancer going to be doing? Lighter than air, swift as sunlight. That's what was used to describe the professional dancer before. And then they conclude with this. The space between you and me is longer than forever, and I will show them that forever is not so far away. So again, we're starting with longer than forever. Forever is a very long time. But this dancer is determined to show that forever is actually not as far as you think it is, and that I'm going to be able to get there someday. I'm going to become that professional dancer too. Not just stuck as a beginner or a mediocre dancer, but I'm going to become a professional just like the other one. Okay? And so, that's telling us that you can become that too. You don't have to be stuck as a beginner. You can become the professional too. So can we take this text and apply it to ourselves? Right? We can take text and apply it to ourselves. What's something that you think there's a difference between a professional and a beginner, but the beginner can become a professional someday if they try hard enough? What's something that you can use to apply to yourself? Zoe?
Maybe 1 year of training for the professional.
Yep, so obviously the big difference is training, right? The professional has a lot more training than the beginner. I'll take something from my own life. Let's think of sports, okay? Let's say a professional football player. There's a big difference between a professional football player and a football player in middle school. They're just really starting out. Upper elementary, you guys are just starting out in football. So are you going to have the same skill set that the pro is going to have? No. You could say the space between you and them is longer than forever. But you could say, someday I will show them that forever is not so far away. What's another one? There's plenty of other things that people are professional in. There's a difference in. Doesn't have to be just be sports. What's something else? Amelia?
Artistry?
Yeah, being an artist. There are pro artists out there that would make the rest of us look silly when it comes to art, right? The space between us and them is longer than forever. But if you're determined, you can show that you could eventually get there too. Brecken?
Ping pong?
Can you say it a little louder?
Ping pong?
Ping pong? Okay, that's true. If you've seen some of those
Jump
YouTube
rope?
videos where they're just sitting there doing this back and forth and it's going laser fast, sure.
Jump
Yeah.
rope?
Yep, there's jump rope, Daniel.
Engineer?
Okay, engineers, yeah, they're very good math whizzes, right? Micah?
Cool.
Cool?
Cool.
Pool, okay, I was gonna say, yeah, professional pool players, you're right. If you've seen some of the videos of them being able to make crazy shots and stuff like that. Tate?
Runners?
Yes, runners too. London? Okay, yep. Wesley?
Soccer players, baseball.
Yep, lots of different pro sports.
In
Yep.
general.
Zoe?
Like baking or something?
Baking too, yeah. That's true. That's true. So again, we can apply this principle, this tone that the author is telling us, we can apply it to ourselves too. We can apply it to the many things in our lives that we care about. So we can take this, even though it's about dancing, we can take this and say, okay, sure, I'm at the beginning stages, and it feels like it's forever before I ever become good at this thing. But if I become determined, just like the author is telling the young dancer to become determined, I can show them that forever is actually not as far as we think it is. And that's what the tone is about here. Did we kind of get it a little bit now? That tone is what the author is trying to tell you that they believe. It's like their opinion on something. So the author's opinion here is that, sure, the young dancer is not as good as the professional dancer, but someday that young dancer is going to be just as good. That's the opinion of what the author thinks. Okay, that's what they think. And that's what's being shown through their tone here. All right? Okay, so we'll go to the share part. So we do have a mini lesson response, which I'm going to write that up here so that you have all four. So as you read today, look for examples of tone in your book. What feelings or attitude did the tone help you understand that the author had toward their subject? Write your answer in your mini lesson response. So there's going to be tone in your book. It may not be super obvious at first, but if you look for it, you will find it. Something that the author has an opinion about. It can even be about people, right? It could be writing about a certain set of characters. Like maybe there's a bully in the story. And so you've got the writer writing about the bully, and they have certain feelings that they have toward the bully. You can say, well, the author has a tone about the bully in this way. They think this thing about bullies. Maybe the author has a positive view of bullies in a way that they think bullies can be redeemed, right? That they can go from bad people to good people. Maybe that's their tone, right? And that's their view. That's their feeling toward that particular group of people. So think about what the tone could be that the author is writing as they're going along, and then write that in your mini lesson response. Okay, go ahead and get your materials.